Hi, I'm Gary Pope from Late to the Table, and this is my top 10 list for the best portable games that came out in 2017. Now, when I'm thinking of portable games, a lot of people think of games that can at least simply be held in one hand. I get a little bit more detailed than that. If you haven't watched Tom's videos from the past, he features these little photo container boxes in which you can also have a huge container that holds a ton of them. And the best part about these is that they're very small, they're very compact, they can hold a bunch of games, they're almost waterproof. And these huge containers can hold a ton of games, and you can just have them slide right in and out just like that. So when I think of portable games, I personally think of games that can fit into these containers. There are a lot of games that can't fit in these containers, but they are still small to some degree. But yeah, so that's basically what I take into consideration when I make this list. If they can fit in one of these containers, then I consider it a portable game. Before we get started with the top 10 list, let's go ahead and go over some honorable mentions. Now, the first honorable mentions are a few games that are just a little bit too big for these containers. Those games include Flip Ships, Tokyo Highway, and Word Domination. Now, next list of games are really good card games that are all LCG style games, which they have a lot of cards, but if you organize and get everything prepared beforehand, you can easily have them fit into one of these containers, but that's not the style of how the game works, so naturally you're not going to do that. And not only that, all of these games are expansions anyways. Those games include Arkham Horror the LCG, Android Netrunner, and then also BattleCon Trials. Now, next list of honorable mentions are games that are just a little bit too big, and if you got some replacement components, or if you got an app to run and replace a lot of components in the game, then they definitely would fit into one of these containers. Those games include Codenames Disney and Marvel, Crosstalk, Spyfall 2, and then also Century Spice Road or the Golem Edition. Now, next few games are party games, but they didn't do anything groundbreakingly different, but they're still fun games, and they could definitely still actually fit into one of these containers, but I didn't consider them to be worthy of the top 10. Those games include Pricestitution, Debatable, and also Moniker's the Shut Up and Sit Down version. And the last honorable mentions are basically the 14 through 11. If there's any games that you dislike on this list, you can easily replace with any one of these games and it'll work perfectly fine for you. But those games include 13 Minutes, Shiba Inu House, Sunday Split, and also Port Royale, the second edition or the American edition, whatever you want to call it. So now let's go ahead and actually start the top 10 list after all of those honorable mentions. Number 10 on the list is going to be Sticky Chameleon. Now, of all the games I'm having on this list, this is actually the only one I actually do not own yet. You have these little sticky tongues you used to get in those little coin machines back in the day, and you flip the tongues at a table full of bug tokens. When you flick the tongue at the table and you grab one of the bug tokens, you then have to grab it off your tongue and then you score the point for that round. Now, the thing that's really interesting about this game is that until you grab that bug token off of the tongue, people can whip their tongues at you and try to steal your points as well. It's a hilarious time for both adults and children. It's a game I'd pull out almost in any situation, really. Now, next on the list is Crossfire. Crossfire is made by Emerson Matsuuchi and it's published by Plaid Hat Games. Now, Crossfire, this is essentially the most streamlined, broken down social deduction game I've ever come across. What I mean that is that it's literally a sand timer, which could have been done with an app, and 20 cards. And that's, well, I don't know if it's exactly 20 cards, but it's like 20 cards. And that's basically it. Plays very similar to games like One Night Ultimate Werewolf, where you have a date phase where basically everyone's talking and trying to figure out who's who. Then everyone has a voting phase at the very end of the game, and then whoever who wins, wins. The difference with this one is that it's literally a 5-minute game. Now, One Night Ultimate Werewolf, people say that's a 5-minute game, but technically not a 5-minute game. It's more like an 8-10 minute game, but this one doesn't even have really much of a night phase. The night phase is literally how you draw and deal out the cards. That's the night phase. But this is a great game. Even though it's super streamlined and super cool, it doesn't have as much replay value as a few other social deduction games, but it's definitely a great one to have in your collection. By far the best portable one, I'd say, in terms of compact size and everything, because not only is it a really good one, but I would almost recommend playing this one as a gateway game for non-gamers over games like One Night. But that's number 9, Crossfire. Now, number 8 on the list is going to come off as a little bit of a surprise because of the size of the box, but it's going to be When I Dream from Chris Darsaklis, I'm murdering that name, and Repos Production, which, if I'm not mistaken, is Asmodee at this point. Now, the way that you can make this actually a portable game is that you don't use half the components. And I'm not even exaggerating when I say that. All right, so I haven't even unpunched all of the points. I don't even bother with points in this game. So leave the points at home. There's also the score little board here. Leave that at home. You don't need that, especially if you're not keeping track of points. There's no real need to it. And then the last component in the game is this bed, which you basically only use to cover up half the cards, half the words on the cards, that is. And that's really it. So leave the bed at home. And then not only that, because of the size of the box, you gotta also leave half the cards at home as well. So I actually have half the cards in here, but there's still a lot of cards in this game. So, as you can see here, the way I have it organized is like this. I have, of course, the eye patch, which you're actually going to be using in the game. And then I have the roll cards here on the top of the deck. So you keep those in there, of course. And then here are all of the dream cards right there. There's the sand timer that you need. And then also, of course, the rule book that's folded into, I think it's roughly about 6. But the way this game works is that one person is naturally blindfolded, of course, and there's everyone else on the table. Everyone else can see these dream cards, and they can see one of the words in the card. And they're basically trying to guide that person using only one word to say this word. The catch in this game, though, like any other sort of game like this or social deduction game, is that there are some people, fairies, that are good guys and they're trying to guide them to actually say the right word. And then there's bad people, the boogeymen, who are trying to make them say the wrong word. But the other twist in this is that there's sandmen who are trying to actually guide them to be balanced. So you might say, well, I want them to get this word right this round, but then wrong the next round, etc. So the person's listening to everyone on the table say one word, and then they say a word, and they're trying to get the correct word. And that's basically the entire game. Very interesting, very fun, very unique sort of game to have as a portable game in here. So it's one I would definitely recommend if you are trying to fill up your portable collection. But that's the number 8 choice, When I Dream. All right, so number 7 on the list actually came as a really big surprise. And that is Dracula's Feast by Peter Hayward and Tanya Walker. Now, and this is also published by Jelly Bean Games, which have been on a roll with getting all their games out. But this one came to me as a surprise because I thought it was going to be a social deduction game in the lines of like One Night Ultimate Werewolf and other games like that. But instead what I got was a deduction bluffing sort of game. And I would almost say it doesn't play just like Clue, not even close, but it's a similar sort of deduction. You're trying to figure people out, stuff like that, sort of gameplay. But I'd even go as far as saying this game for me personally replaces Coup. The reason why is because there's just so much more deduction, there's so much more variety in the games that's going on that this definitely replaces it. The only bad thing I can say about this game is that there are like social deduction games like One Night Ultimate Werewolf, stuff like that. There are some situations where you can have some dud roll setups at certain player counts. So basically what happens is that you might have a game that lasts too long because not enough players are roles where they can find out information faster, or games might be too quick. So you just got to play a few games and realize that there's going to be some bad games until you find the perfect role setups, and then it's great from there. What makes this game cool is that the way it plays out is that everyone's a different role. There are different attendants at Dracula's Feast. You could be Dracula himself, you could be someone like Alucard, you could be someone like Van Helsing, and you're essentially doing a couple little actions. You either ask someone a question about their role essentially, or and they answer back to you in secret, or you can dance with them, in which they look at your role and you look at their role. And there's a couple other little different abilities that you can use throughout the game as well. But that's basically it. And you're just trying to eventually make an accusation where you know everyone on the table. Once you make the accusation and someone gets it correct, then they win the game. But that's Dracula's Feast, a very surprised hidden gem that I came across on Kickstarter. And that's my number 7. Now number 6 is going to be a little bit of a weird one, to be honest. But it's any of the escape room games that are small, in particular Unlock and Exit. Now you may be looking at me saying, why would you put a one-time use game into your portable game collection? And the reason is very simple, because it's portable and it's great for new players. Now, I'm going to say off the bat, I wouldn't get one of those games and put it in this container first. I would make sure I had everything else I needed in this container and then probably put it in there close to last. Now, the way that these escape room games work for me in terms of being great portable games is that they fill up an hour and a half amount of time. They're great for getting new players into the hobby or getting people interested in the hobby. Now, The other really cool thing about it is that if you have games like Unlock and Exit, if you get them all, there's enough of them to the point where you could get a really good rotation in, and then by the time you get through about the 12 or so that are released at this point, there are probably going to be more released, and that's even if you do it once a week. But that's my number 6, the Unlock or Exit series. Basically bring one of those around, you can have a great time. Now number 5 on the list is a classic, and it's Indulgence, which was brought to us back, of course, by Restoration Games, because that's just what they do. And the way that works is that you basically have to follow a different rule every single round, and you either have to play to that rule or play against the rule. And what's also cool about it is that when you're playing for the rules, one person could say, you know what, I think I have a good enough hand where I'm going to do the exact opposite and play against everyone else and sin. So in that situation, they're basically trying to do the exact opposite of what it is, and then they're against everyone else on the table. And then not only that, there's even a way to shoot the moon if there's 3 rules on the table that everyone has to abide to, and if someone sins on all 3 of them, they win the hand at that moment and they win the game. Now, the game is really fun. It's a really cool trick-taking game. I play a ton of trick-taking games. So I would almost go as far as saying it might be one of my more favorite categories. So that's my number 5, Indulgence. Number 4 on the list is going to come with a few asterisks attached to it, but it's Not Alone Games by Ghislain Masson, I guess that's how it's pronounced, from Stronghold Games, and they're the ones that brought it over to the US. I think Geek Attitude Games are the ones that started over in Europe. But Not Alone is a very good game to add to your collection if you need a portable game, because it does some things that are very unique. One, it's a 1 versus all game, and not only is it a 1 versus all game, it plays in 30 minutes, and not only does it play in 30 minutes and it's a 1 versus all game, but it plays up to 7 players, which is ridiculous and unheard of for this type of game, especially for a portable one too. But one person plays as the alien, as 6 people play as the humans, and they're basically just trying to survive and get off of the planet that they landed on. Now, with Not Alone, it fits into one of these containers perfectly, and the first asterisk I'm going to bring up in this game is that it doesn't 100% fit in the container. All the components fit into this one little box except for the scorecard. Now, the thing with this is that it's too big. The fix around it though is that if you have one of these containers, all you have to do is just put it into the center of it, like so, and then the box is still closed and everything without any problems. Or if you don't like that, or if you have a different container or something, then you can just cut it into thirds, I guess. Or you can get a paper copy of it and then just make a foldable copy of it. Either of those options work. But besides that, Not Alone is a great game because it's really cool how it works. It's all card based for the most part, except for a few other components. And basically what's happening is that everyone has a card labeled 1 through 5, and they have different abilities. And they're basically picking a location to go to and activating that ability, while the alien's trying to guess and figure out where people are going. And over time, the alien's going to have more information because people are going to have gone to places and they can't go back to those places. So the alien's going to be able to say, oh, you've been to 3, 4, and 5. So this round, you're either going to 1 or 2, or you might be activating a special ability, what have you. But it's a great game. It literally plays in 30 minutes. I think the longest game I ever played with this was maybe 40, 45 minutes, and that included teaching too as well. But yeah, that's Not Alone from Stronghold Games and Geek Attitude Games. Highly recommended. Now, number 3 on the list is going to be One-Eyed Ultimate Alien from Ted Alspach and Akisha Okui. And the thing about this game is, I'll say right off the bat, it is not my favorite One-Eyed Ultimate Werewolf game. But the thing that makes this one so good in terms of why I would highly recommend it is it does 2 things that really well. One, the randomness. You're either going to hate this mechanic or love the mechanic. I personally love it because in the other One-Eyed Ultimate Werewolf games, it gets a little bit old listening to the night phase, especially after playing this game probably a couple hundred times. It gets really old listening to that night phase. You can basically go to sleep during it and know what happened, and then wake up, and then because you're trying to not pay attention, you're not listening to anything, you're not trying to play that metagame at night. But in this one, you have to focus and listen to the moderator every single night phase because it changes the game every single time. It's ridiculous. It makes you really have to think. It really has to remember a lot of things. So that's the very first reason why this is a great addition to a portable collection. The second thing is, it does something that none of the other One-Eyed Ultimate Werewolves have done, but this is a great standalone addition to the game. You really don't need anything else from it, and it's the only one, in my opinion, to do it correct. Now, with One Night Ultimate Alien, it basically uses the exact same mechanics from the first two games, except they add the randomness, and all the roles in this game make it such a complete package. If Bezier Games continues to release One Night Ultimate Werewolf games that are just like this, where you get it and you don't need the other ones immediately, then they're doing a great job. I can hold this one in my bag and not have to worry about the other ones. Only thing, in my opinion, that this one's missing that it kind of needs a little bit is the robber and the tanner. But that's me being very nitpicky. Besides that, you don't really need anything else. So that's why I highly recommend One Night Ultimate Alien, and that's my number 3 pick. Now the number 2 pick is a couple more asterisks on this one because it is 2 games actually, and that is going to be Insider for Oink Games and Werewords from Ted Alspach again and Bezier Games. Now, both of these games are basically 20 questions except with social deduction thrown into the mix. The difference between the 2 games, Insider is the more casual, more streamlined, and more simple, easier to teach and lighter version of the 2, while Werewords is a little bit more of a gamier version of the same game because people have multiple roles in the game. This one, there's literally only 3 roles in the entire game, while this one there is up to, I think, 5 or 6 if I'm not mistaken. Both of these games are great in their own different ways, and I honestly wouldn't recommend anyone holding around both of them. Insider, I would use Insider, and honestly I actually play Insider way more than I play Werewords, but Insider, I'd use this one for way more casual environments. If there's also non-gamers, this one's probably going to be the better one to work with. And also, if you really need a very portable game, this literally fits into your pocket. So that's actually one of the reasons why I use this one more than Werewords. But Werewords, in my opinion, is the more gamier game. The person who's giving the clues can even be the werewolf. That's one of the things that just like gets my attention so much with this version. This one's very great for gamers. If they think that Insider's a little bit too simple, Werewords might be the thing that puts them over the edge and really enjoys it. And not only that, the app integration in this game is great. I mean, you can add your own words, you can use a whole bunch more words in this, and you can also make levels of difficulty in terms of the words. That's one problem with Insiders. You're using a deck of cards, and sometimes those words are just duds, absolute duds out. There's some words at which I don't know why they're even in there. But besides that, both these games are great games to add to your collection, and these are my number 2 picks, Werewords and Insider. All right, so the number 1 pick for top portable game that came out 2017, without a doubt, goes to the Fox in the Forest. Now, I'm gonna be very honest with you guys. I've only played this game 2, maybe 3 times, and it's a very quick game. Should have played this game maybe 30 times by now, by how much I'm about to praise this game. But if there's one thing I can tell you about when it comes to trick-taking games, is that I've played a lot of trick-taking games. Just to go over some of the numbers in terms of how much I've played trick-taking games in my life, there was a few years where I did this. I played a minimum of 2 hours a day, and I did that 5 days a week. I did that 4 weeks out of the month, and I did that for 3 months out of the year, and I did that for 3 years. If I'm not mistaken, I'm probably gonna have the math graphics over here somewhere telling you, but that's roughly around 300 or 360 hours over a course of 3 years. And that was about 10 years ago. And I've been playing a lot of trick-taking games ever since. Actually, I wouldn't be surprised if that number was closer to 700 over the course of those 3 years. So I'm basically saying this because when I play a trick-taking game, I know it's a really good trick-taking game right off the bat. Fox in the Forest is up there, in my opinion, with Diamond. It's up there with Skull King in terms of these new trick-taking games that have a nice, cool little spin on it and that are great. The thing that makes Fox in the Forest, though, number 1, and not in a game like Indulgence or something like that, is that it's a 2-player. It's a 2-player quick trick-taking game. You can play this game in 10 minutes. You can teach someone and finish playing it in 10 minutes. The other difference between this game is that I could tell there's just so much more depth in this game than a game like Indulgence. The gimmick in Indulgence is that the rules change constantly. Every single round you're playing a slightly different game. So that's really cool and that's really interesting, but I can see that getting old after a year or 2 of playing it. Fox in the Forest, I can see myself playing this game hundreds of times and still pulling it out and not getting bored with it. This is going to be my go-to filler now that I got this copy. I just got this copy like a week ago. It's going to be my go-to filler when I have 2 players. It's going to be my go-to game when I want to maybe teach one other person how to play trick-taking games. It's going to be a go-to for a long time now, and I highly recommend this game. Fox and the Farce. I forgot to say who it was made by. It's made by Joshua Burgell from Renegade Games. But that's going to do it for the list. Number 1 pick for top 10 portable games 2017, Fox and the Farce. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you disagree with any of these picks that I had on the list? Do you agree with any of them? Did I just completely miss some games that weren't even in the honorable mentions or anything? Let me know if you also like it or dislike this video. I usually don't do reviews, but I made an exception for this one, and not only that, it just seemed like a really interesting topic to go over. But if you like this video and also my style video, be sure to check me out on my own channel, Late to the Table, and also be sure to check me out on Board Game Breakfast too. I'm there every week. But until next time, guys, I'm Gary Pope from Late to the Table. Peace. See ya.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.